Hi, my name is Katelin Grandy, and I'd like to welcome you to room 147. I'm offering some pictures first. You can get a sense of what our room feels like when you walk through the door and turn around. And there are some special spaces in our room that are useful for us, such as the section with Purell and or whatever brand that we're using, extra masks, iPhone and Android phone chargers. There's another small workspace over here, so I can do conferences or touch base with students while they're working, while the rest of their classmates are working. This is our sign out area. And this, of course, is the student cart where I have anything I think a student could need except snacks when we run out because the kids are hungry this year. So I want to just give you a brief overview of what we're reading and what we're writing and what our days look like. And I really appreciate you watching this video and being here with me today. So, as far as reading is concerned, it's interesting that in the AP Lang class, it's also during a year when they would be doing American literature. So, I have to try to attend to the AP Lang curriculum and also focus on some knowledge and cultural awareness of American literature. And that's a little bit of a heavy lift in some ways, but we have found some really beautiful ways to approach it. So that I can make sure that they're getting everything they need in terms of the more nonfiction focused rhetorical analysis, argument, etc. Uh, path, but also have a sense of continuity and the shift in movements throughout our literary history. So one of the ways that I do that is by offering a whole class novel that is more likely to be canonical. I can't say exactly what that might be. Last year we did The Great Gatsby, but often I'll offer students choices and we decide together so we can kind of construct our experience together. There are also two experiences for fiction for book groups. We have a high interest fiction book group, so those are more contemporary texts, so really in the last 10 to 15 years, and also a nonfiction book, and that's the same thing. So they can kind of branch out and see their own interests and engage in discourse with each other about these texts. We'll all read A Raise in the Sun, and I'm hoping that through collaborating with the Dutchess County Historical Society, that I might be able to coordinate some sort of interesting local learning experience, maybe even a field trip. So that might be in the works for the spring. And then we also do a lot of work through short works like short stories, essays, and articles. And they might be from Subject and Strategy, which is one of our textbooks, like a reader, or from Language of Composition, or it might be from a weekly newspaper or a monthly publication as well. So we really pull from as many sources as we can to give the students a wide range of mentor texts and reading experiences so that they feel full and enriched as readers, but also like they have a lot of sources and authors to look at as mentors. So writing, the first three you see here is synthesis, rhetorical analysis, and argument. Those are the three types of essays that are on the AP exam. We will start synthesis work even this week when they're moving through their writing cycle, which I'll show you in a minute. I'll just ask them to think about one of the short stories that we looked at or one of the essays we looked at so far and try to incorporate something about that into their own reflection through their writing. We're constantly building a synthesis. We're constantly just trying to make connections, like birds kind of creating nests and making sure that we can get, like a ribbon here and a piece of wool here and a twig here and some mud there to kind of hold our ideas, right? Hold the fragile, sometimes ideas that we're trying to put inside of them. And then rhetorical analysis is really looking at a text and trying to understand the moves an author makes and really understand ethos, pathos, and logos, and how context contributes, intersects with all those things in order to create some sort of message. Argument, really the students are given very little for the argument prompt, right? So for synthesis, they're given a bunch of articles and a bunch of essays. And for rhetorical analysis, they're given an entire piece that they have to move through and apply their knowledge onto that. And then for argument, they're given maybe a sentence to a maximum paragraph. So that requires them to be consumers of the world around them in important and literary based ways and in many different ways. So I'm going to show you how we're going to do that as well. So they have to create an argument. So we have to learn how do you create an argument and how do you build an argument? What are the different models for argument? Because I'll give them a few different things to have in their toolbox to approach this. So they don't have to feel like they're always thinking in the binary of good or bad or right and wrong. We will also do some personal essay and some poetry work in the course as well. So hopefully they'll get a balance of all the things and just feel prepared for any writing situation that they feel compelled to engage with. So to show you what the learning cycle looks like, this is a 10-day cycle. And this 10-day cycle is what we're following. I think we just started the cycle because it took a while to get our growth log set up, and we had some really beautiful team building experiences through poetry and community building experiences through poetry. But right now we are in this. And the purpose of this cycle is to encourage student choice and engagement, to make sure that students have a rich source of early writing from which they can draw, and to make sure that they have a lot of mentor text that we have a chance to study as we're looking through and figuring out how to compose and to revise our own work. So day one always starts with quick write and news. I'm going to pause for a second. I can't. Okay. So we always are quick writing and looking at mentor text and doing mini lessons. So today, for example, we did some sentence work with the mentor text we were looking at and used the mentor text for mentor sentences. And other days we might just be looking at how the author's using dialogue. If we're looking at narration, how are they using context, point of view, selection of detail and organization. So it's really tailored to just continue layering opportunities and knowledge for them to have in their toolboxes. So after a 5-day session, on the 5th day, they're working with their growth log, figuring out what they did, whether or not they were kind of tuned in to their learning goals or not, and then setting intentions for the next week. And we're really going to try to develop language around what that looks like, so it becomes a norm that they're talking about their learning. After that, the cycle starts on 6. So their news groups look like they all have different sources that they're following. And each week, the group leader for that diverse group of students is going to determine what kind of stories they're going to follow. And they're going to come together to see the stories and, in the spirit of rhetorical analysis, figure out what bias they see, how information is being presented to readers, and figure out how to kind of navigate that in a citizenship way, but also in a citizen way, but also it's going to help them when they get to the argument piece, because they'll be like figuring out what's happening in the world at a great and consistent pace. The next day, they're going to write a draft. So they've written a bunch of quick writes. They have a bunch of mentor texts. They're going to choose something that they're going to write. And the day after that, we'll do a peer review with something called the CARES model. You can look that up online. Sometimes students need that, the structure. There are other workshop models that I can introduce them in a couple of months if they're interested, but that's the one we're going to use for now. The next day, they're going to revise with a writer's memo and submit, and then I'll be able to give them feedback. Then we'll start the cycle all over again, right? So they have that comfort of knowing that they're always producing, right? They're always writing, they're always generating. They're also always reading, and they're always like kind of getting their ideas together and synthesizing. And the next week, if they wanted to continue to work on that older piece, they could, right? They could revise at day 7 and then do another peer review and then revise again. Or maybe they want to go fresh, but they're going to be in a constant state of writing and making decisions and seeing their work as both writers and readers. That's it for me. I really hope that you will hear from me. My goal is that over the next 5 weeks, I get to call all the households and touch base with everybody. It has been, as I'm sure it was for you, kind of a whirlwind of an opening. I'm so happy to be here. Your students are making some really keen, beautiful insights into the text. They're supporting each other in class, and they're just here with like an openness and a curiosity that it just is invigorating. And I just want to let you know you'd be so proud. So hopefully within the next 5 weeks, every household will hear from me. Of course, you can contact me at kgrandy@rhimeXCSD.org. And thank you. Thank you so much. I'm having a great time with them, and they're doing good work. Bye.